just one barrel. Oh.
Ordered under the contract name Ursus Hildenbrand as a replacement of the obsolete coastal defense ship Hildenbrand. Kaiser was laid down at the Imperial Dockyard in Kiel in September of 1909. The hull was ordered by the 22nd of March 1911 when the ship was launched. This date was specifically chosen as it was the birthday of Kaiser, Emperor Wilhelm Wilhelm I. His grandson Kaiser William II attended the launching ceremony, where German Chancellor Theobald von Bertmann Wilhelm gave a speech while the Kaiserin Empress Augustus Victoria christened the ship. Fitting out work then began, which was completed by the end of July in 1912. On the 1st of August, the ship was commissioned for sea trials. These were concluded by the 7th of December, the following day. Kaiser joined the fleet as the flagship of the 5th Division. Her crew consisted largely of men who had been transferred from the recently decommissioned battleships Alice and Birkenweg. The ship was 172.40 meters long overall and displaced a maximum of 27,000 metric tons at full load. She had a beam of 29 meters and a draft of 9.10 meters forward and 8.80 meters aft. Kaiser was powered by 3 sets of Parison turbines supplied with steam by 16 coal-fired water tube boilers. The power plant produced a top speed of 23.4 knots. She carried 3,600 metric tons of coal, which enabled a maximum range of 7,900 nautical miles at a cruising speed of 12 knots. Kaiser was armed with a main battery of 10 30.5 centimeter SKL-50 guns in 5 twin turrets. The ship dispensed with the ineffective hexagonal arrangement of previous German battleships. Instead, 3 of the 5 turrets were mounted on the centerline, and 2 of them arranged in a super-firing pair aft. The other 2 turrets were placed amidships so that both could fire on the broadside. The ship was also armed with a secondary battery of 14 15-centimeter 5.1-inch gun SKL-45 guns in casemates amidships for close range defense against torpedo boats. She carried 8 8.8 centimeter 3.5-inch SKL-45 guns in casemates. The ship was also armed with 4 8.8 centimeter L-45 anti-aircraft guns. The ship's armament was rounded out by 5 50-centimeter 19.1-inch torpedo tubes, all mounted in the ship's hull. 1 was in the bow, and the other 4 were on the broadside. Her main armor belt was 350 millimeters or 13.1 inches thick at the central citadel, and was composed of Krupp cemented armor, or KCA. Her main battery turrets were protected by 300 millimeters or 11.8 inches of KCA on the sides and faces. Kaiser's conning tower was heavily armored with 400 millimeters or 15.1 inch sides. After joining the active fleet in December of 1912, Kaiser was stationed in Kiel. The ship then conducted individual training. In February of 1913, Kaiser was transferred to Wilhelmshaven, along with her sister ship, Frederick de Gross. She then took part in several training exercises with the rest of the High Seas Fleet. These included maneuvers in the North Sea in March and April, auxiliary drills in the Baltic at the end of the month, and further fleet maneuvers in May. In June, Kaiser took part in the Kiel Week Regatta. Kaiser William II and Italian King Victor Admiral III inspected the ship. The annual summer cruise to Norway was conducted in July and August, followed immediately by the autumn maneuvers in August and September. In September of 1913, Captain Adolf von Trotha became the ship's commanding officer, a post he held until the January of 1916. Kaiser was selected to participate in a long-distance cruise to test the stability of the new turbine propulsion system. The ship was joined by her sister, König Albert, and the light cruiser Strasbourg. In a special detached division, the trio departed Germany on the 9th of December 1913 and proceeded to the German colonies in Western Africa. The ships visited Lolum and Tengrot, Dola and Victoria in Cormoran, and Kashmon in German Southwest Africa. From Africa, the ships sailed to St. Helena and then to the Rio de Janeiro, arriving on the 15th of February 1914. Strasbourg was then detached to visit Barros Arras, Argentina, before returning to meet the two battleships in Montevideo, Uraga. The three ships sailed south around Cape Horn and then north to Vaspet, Chile, arriving on the 2nd of April and remaining for over a week. On the 11th of April, the ships departed Valparaiso for the long journey back to Germany. On the return trip, the ships visited several more ports, including Brazia, Argentina, before returning to Rio de Janeiro. On the 16th of May, the ships left Rio de Janeiro for the Arctic leg of the journey. They stopped in Cape Verde, Murgia, and Virgo, Spain, while en route to Germany. Kaiser, König Albert, and Strasbourg arrived in Kiel on the 17th of June, 1914. In the course of the voyage, the ships traveled some 20,000 nautical miles. A week later, on the 24th of June, the detached division was dissolved and Kaiser returned to the III Squadron. Kaiser then participated in squadron exercises in July. Kaiser joined the High Seas Fleet for its annual summer cruise to Norway in July of 1914. About 2 weeks after the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand in Charleroi, as a result of the rising international tensions, the cruise was cut short and the German fleet was back in Wilhelmshaven by the 29th of July. At midnight on the 4th of August, the United Kingdom declared war on Germany. The High Seas Fleet, including Kaiser, conducted a number of sweeps and advances into the North Sea. The first occurred on the 2nd and 3rd of November in 1914, though no British forces were encountered. Admiral Frederick von Ingotti The commander of the High Seas Fleet adopted strategies in which the battlecruisers of Rear Admiral Franz von Hipper's scouting group raided British coastal towns to lure out positions of the Grand Fleet, where they could be destroyed by the High Seas Fleet. The raid on Scuttled, Hartlepool, and Whitby on the 15th and 16th of December 1914 was the first such operation. On the evening of the 15th of December, the German battle fleet of some 12 dreadnoughts, including Kaiser and her 4 sisters, and 8 pre-dreadnoughts, came to within 10 nautical miles of an isolated squadron of 6 British battleships. However, skirmishes between the rival destroyer squadrons in the darkness convinced Edgar that he was faced with the entire Grand Fleet. Under orders from Kaiser William II to avoid risking the fleet unnecessarily, Edgar broke off the engagement and turned to the battle fleet back to Germany, and turned the battle fleet back towards Germany. Following the loss of SMS Blücher at the Battle of Dogger Bank in July of 1915, the Kaiser removed Egert from his post on the 2nd of February. Admiral Hugo von Poly replaced him as commander of the fleet. Poly conducted a series of fleet advancements in 1914 in which Kaiser took part. In the first one on the 29th and 30th of March, the fleet steamed out to the north of temperature and return without incident. Another followed on the 17th and 18th of April, where Kaiser and the rest of the fleet covered a mining operation by the 2nd Scouting Group. 3 days later, on the 2nd and on the 21st and the 22nd of April, the High Seas Fleet advanced towards Dogger Bank, although again failing to meet any British forces. Kaiser was in dock in Kiel for periodic maintenance during the operation on the 17th and 18th of May. But she was back with the fleet for the sortie on the 29th and the 30th of May, during which the fleet advanced as far as the Skircher before being forced to turn back to incidental weather. On the 10th of August, the fleet steamed to the north of Heligoland to cover the return of the auxiliary cruiser Meteor. A month later, on the 11th and 12th of September, the fleet covered another mine-laying operation off the Swatter Bank, the last operation of the year, conducted on the 23rd and 24th of October, was an advance without result of the detection of Horn's Reef, or in the direction of Horn's Reef. On the 2nd of January 1916, Admiral Reinhard Scheer replaced Page Poly as the fleet commander. Kaiser was present during the fleet advance on the 5th and 7th of March, though this too ended without action. While in port in Kiel, the old pre-dreadnought, however, accidentally collided with Kaiser. Though neither ship was seriously damaged, Scheer continued the series of fleet operations practiced by his predecessors. The fleet conducted sweeps of the North Sea on the 26th of March, and the 2nd to the 3rd of April, and the 21st to the 22nd of April. The battlecruisers conducted another raid on the English coast on the 24th and the 25th of April, during which Kaiser and the rest of the fleet provided distant support. Scheer planned another raid for mid-May, but the battlecruiser Schittlitz had struck a mine during the previous raid, and the repair work forced the operation to be pushed back until the end of the month. Almost immediately after the Rosyth raid, Scheer began planning another foray into the North Sea. He had intentionally intended to launch the operation in mid-May, by which time the mine damage to Sitset was scheduled to be repaired. Scheer was unwilling to embark on a major raid without his battlecruiser forces at full strength. On the 9th of May, however, several battleships developed problems with their engines, which laid the operation further to the 23rd of May. On the 22nd of May, Leitz was still not fully repaired, and the operation was again postponed. This time on the 29th of May, at noon on the 29th of May, the repairs to Sitchets were finally completed, and the ship returned to the first scouting group. The plan called for Hipper's battlecruisers to steam north to the Sharmark with the intention of luring out a portion of the British fleet so it could be destroyed by Scheer's waiting battleships. Kaiser and the rest of the III Battle Squadron were the leading unit of the High Seas fleet, and the 4 König-class battleships led the line. Kaiser, the flagship of the Kotmed H. Normand, and directly astern of the 4 Königs, the 1st Battle Squadron, composed of the 8 Heligoland and Nassau-class battleships, followed the 3rd Squadron, and the 6 elderly pre-dreadnoughts of the 2nd Battle Squadron, bringing up the rear. Hipper's 5 battlecruisers left the Jade estuary on the at 0200 hours on the 31st of May. Scheer, with the High Seas fleet, followed an hour and a half later. Shortly before 1600 hours CET, the battle cruisers of the 1st Scouting Group encountered the British 1st Battle Cruiser Squadron under the command of David Beatty. The opposing ships began an artillery duel that saw the destruction of Indefiable shortly after 1700 hours, and Queen May less than half an hour later, or Queen Mary less than half an hour later. By this time, the German battlecruisers were steaming south in order to draw the British ships towards the main body of the High Seas fleet. At 1730, Koenig's crew spotted both the 1st Scouting Group and the 1st Battlecruiser Squadron approaching. The German battlecruisers were steaming to starboard, while the British ships steamed to port. At 1745, Scheer ordered a two-point turn to port to bring his ships closer to the British battlecruisers, and a minute later, at 1746, the order to open fire was given. Between 1748 and 1752, Kaiser, Kronprinz Frederick de Gross, and all 8 battleships of the 1st Squadron opened fire on several ships of the 2nd Light Cruiser Squadron. Kaiser, Oscarond, and Nassau engaged HMS Southampton, though only Nassau managed to score a hit on the cruiser. In the span of 8 minutes, Kaiser fired 11 salvos at Southampton without success. The 2nd LCS then moved back out of range, having largely escaped unscratched. At 1758, Scheer ordered the fleet to maximum speed. The greater speed of the Königs caused the distance between Kaiser and König to rapidly increase. At 1805, Southampton again came into range, and Kaiser opened fire. Kaiser fired 4 salvos at a range of 12,000 meters. though again without scoring any hits. After 3 minutes of firing, Kaiser's guns again fell silent. Starting at 1810, Kaiser began firing on the 15th Battle Squadron battleship Marla. On the span of 25 minutes, Kaiser fired 25 salvos at a range of 17,300 meters. The British destroyers Nestor and Normand, which had been disabled earlier in the engagement, lay directly in the path of the advancing high seas fleet. Shortly before 1830, Kaiser and her three sister ships opened fire on Normand with their secondary batteries. The hail of 15-centimeter shells smothered the ship. A fire was started and one shell detonated the ship's forward ammunition magazine. Normand sank stern first at 1830. Nestor was meanwhile destroyed by the battleships of the first squadron. Shortly after 1900 hours, the German cruiser Westben had become disabled by a shell from the British battlecruiser Invincible. Rear Admiral Bedrick and König attempting to maneuver the third squadron to cover the stricken cruiser. Simultaneously, the British third and fourth light cruiser squadron began a torpedo attack on the German line. While advancing to torpedo range, they smothered Westben with fire from their main guns. The 8-3 third squadron battleships fired at the British cruisers, but even sustained fire from the battleships' main guns failed to drive off the British cruisers. The armored cruisers Defense, War, and Black Prince joined in the attack on the crippled Westben. Between 1914 hours and 1917 hours, Kaiser and several other battleships and battlecruisers opened fire on the Defiance and Warrior. Defense was struck by several heavy caliber shells from the German dreadnoughts. One salvo penetrated the ship's ammunition magazine, and in a massive explosion destroyed the cruiser. As Warrior limped away to the west, the Queen Elizabeth-class battleships of the 5th Battle Squadron joined the Grand Fleet as it entered the battle from the north. However, Warship was forced to haul out of the line to south towards the oncoming German fleet. Warship came under intense fire from the approaching German battleships. Kaiser scored a hit on Warship that damaged her steering gear and forced her to steam in a circle out of control. After completing 2 full circles and sustaining 13 heavy hits, Warship came back under control and rejoined the squadron. However, by 2000 hours, the steering gear had again failed, so the ship was forced to withdraw from the engagement. By 2015, the German fleet had faced the Grand Fleet for a second time and was forced to turn away. In doing so, the order of the German line was reversed. Kaiser was now the 5th ship from the rear of the German line, ahead of only the 4 König-class battleships. Kaiser was hit twice in quick succession by heavy caliber shells. At 2023, and 3 minutes later, the common point capped shells that came from the 30-centimeter, 12-inch guns of Agincourt. One shell penetrated the upper deck and landed in a hammock stowage compartment below the number 7 casemate. The shell failed to explode, and instead broke up on impact, starting a small fire that was quickly put out. The other shell probably exploded outside the ship. Shortly before 2130, Kaiser, Prince Rupert, and Markgraf spotted British light forces approaching. The German ships opened fire at a range of around 7,300 meters with both their main and secondary armament. The light cruiser König was badly damaged, which forced the British ships to withdraw. At around 23:30, the German fleet reorganized into the night cruising formation. Kaiser was the 12th ship in the center of the 24-ship line. After a series of night engagements between the leading battleships and British destroyers, the High Seas Fleet punched through the British light forces and reached Horns Reef by 0400 hours on the 1st of June. The German fleet reached Wilhelmshaven an hour later. The first squadron battleships took up defensive positions in the outer roadstead, and Kaiser, Kaisermann, Prinzgrad Lupid, and Kronprinz stood ready just outside the entrance of Wilhelmshaven. The remainder of the battleships and battlecruisers entered Wilhelmshaven, where those that were still in fighting condition replenished their stocks of coal and ammunition. The 2 shell hits suffered by Kaiser had been largely ineffective, wounding only 1 crew member. On the 18th of August, Admiral Scheer attempted a repeat of the 31st of May operation. The 2 serviceable German battlecruisers, Mokuch and von der Tann, supported by 3 dreadnoughts, were to bombard the coastal town of Sutherland in an attempt to draw out and destroy Betty's battlecruisers. The rest of the fleet, including Kaiser, would trail behind and provide cover. The British were aware of the German plans and sortied the Grand Fleet to meet them, leading to the action of the 19th of August, 1916. By 1435, Admiral Scheer had been warned of the Grand Fleet's approach, and unwilling to engage the whole of the Grand Fleet, just 11 weeks after the decidedly close call at Jutland, turned his forces around and retreated to German ports. Another fleet advance followed on the 18th and 20th of October, though it ended without encountering any British units. 2 weeks later, on the 4th of November, Kaiser took part in an expedition to the western coast of Denmark to assist 2 U-boats, U-20 and U-30, that had become stranded there. On the 1st of December, the High Seas Fleet was reorganized. Kaiser and her sisters were transferred to the newly castle-created the 4th Battle Squadron, with Kaiser as the flagship. In 1917, the policies of the unrestricted submarine warfare was reestablished. The service units of the German Navy were therefore tasked with covering the departures and arrivals of the U-boats. As a result, Kaiser spent most of the year on picket duty in the German Bight. In May of 1917, Kaiser went into dry dock for periodic maintenance. In early September of 1917, following the German army's conquest of the Russian port of Riga, the Navy decided to eliminate the Russian naval forces that had still held the Gulf of Riga. The Navy High Command planned an operation to seize the Baltic island of Ossel, and specifically the Russian gun batteries on the Swarben Peninsula. On the 18th of September, the order was issued for a joint operation with the Army to capture Ossel and Moon Islands. The primary naval component was organized into a specific unit, which comprised the flagship Mokuch, along with the 4th Battle Squadron of the 6th Divisions. The 4th Battle Squadron of the High Seas Fleet. The 4th Squadron was composed of V and 6 divisions, or 5 and 6 divisions. 5 division included the 4 König-class ships and was by this time augmented with the new battleship Bayern. In the 6th Division consisted of the 5 Kaiser-class battleships, along with 9 light cruisers, 3 torpedo boat flotillas, and dozens of mine warfare ships. The entire force numbered some 300 ships, supported by over 100 aircraft and 6 Zeppelins. The invasion force mounted up to approximately 24,600 officers and enlisted men. Opposing the Germans were the old Russian pre-dreadnoughts Sava and Tirchuk, and the armored cruisers Ban, Admiral Makarov, and Diana. 26 destroyers and several torpedo boats and gunboats. The garrison on Ossel numbered some 14,000 men. On the 24th of September, Kaiser left Kiel, bound for the Portrik Week, where she rendezvoused with several other battleships. From there, the ship went to Lipia, which she reached on the 10th of October. 2 days later, on the morning of the 12th of October, Kaiser, joined by her sisters Kirschen and the Prince Rupert, opened fire on the Russian shore batteries at Cape Hochstort. On the 14th of October, Kaiser engaged the Russian destroyer Gorham and disabled the ship's engine with a single hit. Gorham was captured and taken in tow, but she quickly foundered. Kaiser then bombarded Russian positions on Cape Torf on the 16th of October. By the 20th of October, the fighting on the islands were whittled down. Moon, Auschel, and Degund were in German possession. The previous day, the Admiralst had ordered the cessation of naval actions and the return of the dreadnoughts to the high seas fleet as soon as possible. On the 31st of October, Kaiser and the rest of the special unit were detached from the operation and sent back to Kiel, which they reached by the 2nd of November. Kaiser was back in the North Sea on the 7th of November. Kaiser and Korschen was assigned to security duty in the Bight on the 17th of November. They were tasked with providing support to the 2nd Scouting Group and several minesweepers. 2 British light cruisers, Caspo and Calden, attacked the minesweepers and the 2nd Scouting Group in the 2nd Battle of the Heligoland Bight. Kaiser and her sister intervened and hit one of the light cruisers. The 2 ships briefly engaged a battlecruiser Repulse, but neither side scored any hits, and the German commander failed to press the attack. On the 2nd of February 1918, the light cruiser struck a mine. Kaiser was among the ships that sortied to escort the damaged cruiser back to port. The ship was also present during the fleet advance on the 23rd and 24th of April. The operation was intended to intercept a heavy escorted British convoy to Norway on the 23rd and 25th of April, though the operation was cancelled when the battlecruiser Moltke suffered mechanical damage. In the final months of the war, Captain Hermann Bart took command of the ship. His period in command lasted from August to November. Kaiser was sent to have taken part in a final fleet action days before the armistice, an operation which envisioned the bulk of the high seas fleet sorting from their base in Wilhelmshaven to engage the British Grand Fleet. In order to retain a better bargaining position for Germany, Admiral Hipper and Scheer intended to inflict as much damage as possible on the British Navy, whatever the cost of the fleet. Consequently, on the 29th of October 1918, 1918, the order was given to depart from Wilhelmshaven to consolidate the fleet in the Jade resident, with the intention of departing the following morning. However, starting on the night of the 29th of October, sailors at Termagant mutinied. The unrest spread to other battleships, which forced Hipper and Scheer to cancel the operation. Following the capture, the catapultation of Germany in November of 1918, most of their fleet ships were interned in the British naval base in Scapa Flow under the command of Rear Admiral Ludwig von Reuter. Prior to the departure of the German fleet, Admiral Adolf von Treptow made clear to Reuter that he could not allow the Allies to seize the ships under any conditions. The fleet rendezvoused with the British light cruiser Kardolf, which led the ships to the Allied fleet that was to escort the Germans to Scapa Flow. The massive flotilla consisted of some 340 ships, are British, American, and French warships. Once the ships were interned, their guns were disabled, though through the removal of their breech locks. The fleet remained in captivity during the negotiation that ultimately produced the Versailles Treaty. A copy of the Times informed Reuter that the armaments was to expire at noon on the 21st of June 1919, the deadline by which Germany was to have signed the peace treaty. Reuter came to the conclusion that the British intended to seize the German ships after the armaments expired. Unaware that the deadline had been extended to the 23rd, Reuter ordered the ships to be sunk. On the morning of the 21st of June, the British fleet left Scapa Flow to conduct training maneuvers, and at 11:20, Reuter transmitted the order to his ships. Kaiser sank at 13:24. The ship was raised in 1929 and broken up for scrap in Rosyth starting in 1930. And that will conclude today's video. If you guys enjoyed, please go hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell so that you guys do not miss out on any future content. Please go hit that like button so this video probably will hopefully get out to more people. If you guys have any questions, concerns, or anything like that, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. And with that being said, again, I thank everybody for tuning in, and I shall see you all in the next video. Peace out.